Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Blitz, your weekly Lorraine County High School football show brought to you by First Federal Savings of Lorraine. I'm your host, Marissa McNeese of the Chronicle Telegram and WEOL, joined on location this week by my partner behind the camera, Kristen Bauer, and we have a ton of high school football news, as always, to bring you as we head into the first week of conference play after our expanded non-conference schedule this 2021 season. First, though, let's get some of the not-so-great news out of the way. For the second week in a row, we saw a Lorraine County team's game canceled due to COVID-19. This week, it was Clearview's game against Smithville canceled. The Clippers with a positive test. Unfortunately, those games not made up this season. However, it shouldn't impact playoff or postseason standings should we get to that point with Clearview. The OHSAA has made allowances for that. But again, another local team's game canceled, and they're not the only ones. I caught up with the OHSAA's Tim Strayed this Saturday on the WEOL Saturday Morning Sports Wrap-Up Show, and he said, he was candid. Things are trending in the wrong direction. Week 1, there were 17 games canceled. Week 2, 32. And in Week 3, Clearview was one of 40 teams that had their games canceled due to COVID-19. As of now, they're not planning on making any changes in terms of mandates or attendance rules, things like that. Essentially, the OHSAA is at the whim of the county health departments. But like he said, things are trending in the wrong direction now. As of filming, we have not heard of any local teams with their game canceled, so we can only hope that continues to be the case. But we are seeing, as the season progresses, the impact COVID-19 is having on the season. Now, if all the purple didn't give it away for you, we are here on location at a very windy Avon, where a huge rivalry game will be taking place this Friday. But before we look ahead, let's talk about what happened here this past week. Week 3, Avon hosting Glenville here. They returned home after a really tough loss to Medina the week before, and boy, did the Eagles bounce back. I was on hand for that game and saw Avon absolutely dominate Glenville. 55-18 was the final score, and it really was never even close. But the big story of the game, two big stories actually, two big accomplishments happening right here. After the game, it was announced Coach Mike Elder wins his 200th career game as a head football coach, his 150th here with Avon. It's a huge feat for Coach Elder, who of course passed all the credit on to his coaching staff and all of his players, many of whom have come back to help be a part of that coaching staff. And if that wasn't enough, there was another 200th milestone. Kicker Nathaniel Vakos kicks his 200th consecutive extra point in that game against Glenville. He had the state record and turns out the national record coming into this season, but only solidifies that even more. The national record, according to the record books coming in to this season, it was 145. So Nathaniel, well past that, has that record well within his grasp, but 200, quite an accomplishment. And it's only week 3. There's plenty of football still to be played. And as we've seen, such a talented kicker. So I'm sure that record will just keep building as the season goes on. For all the talk about rivalries coming up this week, there was a pretty big one that happened this past week in week 3. Lorraine, that rivalry renewed after Lorraine canceled its football season in 2020. But the Pioneers traveled to George Daniel Field, the first game played at George Daniel Field since 2019, and just continue their winning ways. They win 37-0 over Lorraine. Lorraine's still struggling. They're 0-3 again after a season where they didn't play. Still trying to get their footing with new coach Damian Creel, but the story is all about Illiana. I'm sure you've heard the name Andrew Palos. I've talked about him on the Blitz. I'm sure we're going to keep hearing of this name as the season goes on, but he makes some more big plays for the Pioneers, who are now 3-0 for the first time since 2015, and they've won their last 5 games dating back to last season. They're on a roll under Coach Devlin Culver, who has them bigger, stronger, more locked in than we've seen an Illyria team be in a while. And now we get to see how this team is going to compete in a brand new conference. As we all know, Illyria coming from the GCC over to the SWC, they will play the likes of your Avon Lake, teams like that. And after being so battle tested in the GCC, arguably one of the toughest conferences in Northeast Ohio, they join another one. The SWC is not easy. Every coach has said and will say it's a grind in all sports, especially football. So the Pioneers on a roll as we enter into conference play this week, and it's a team we're all going to keep having our eye on, see how they stack up in this league and if they can continue to be in the conversation for one of the top teams in Lorraine County. And speaking of the SWC, another team we have to talk about this week is North Ridgeville. The Rangers pick up their first win of the season last week in week 2 and just continue to dominate. That week 1 blowout loss is nothing but a memory at this point. The Rangers beat Normandy 58-0. They start the game recovering a punt that was maybe a fumble that went backwards, score within the first minute of the game, and do not look back. They rushed for over 300 yards in the first half alone. Dom Farago with 140 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first half. This is a team I think a lot of people looked past heading in to the season as not really maybe a contender in the SWC, but I think that's all going to change. Coach Brian Morgan said he's really hoping to surprise some teams this season, and with that running game, I think it's all but likely we see North Ridgeville with a few more big wins as we head into conference play this season. We also had 2 Lorraine County teams pick up their first wins of the season this week, and 2 Lorraine County League teams at that. It was Firelands finally getting in the win column, but the big story is Oberlin beating Brooklyn 21-20 for their first win since 2019. And take the pandemic out of it, this is a team that has faced its fair share of challenges with low numbers and not having a home field to play on. But finally, this team breaks through for a huge win. I caught up with Coach Mike Akers on Saturday, and you could hear the emotion in his voice, the pride, so happy for his team that, he said it sometimes can be a struggle to get your team motivated to get out there and get up for a game when you're consistently losing, when you don't have a home field. But finally playing in front of a crowd and getting that win is very excited for this team and much needed, like we said, as we head into a very, very tough Lorraine County League. So a big congratulations to Oberlin, which leads us right into this week's team of the week. I have been giving myself away lately with talking about my team of the week right at the top, but we're going to have to give it to Oberlin this week. How can you not? After not having won since 2019, a huge shout out to the Phoenix for pulling out that win. So we have to give Oberlin our team of the week. Of course, looking ahead to week 4, we have to talk about the big game happening right here this Friday as Avon prepares to get practice going here. But it will be Avon Lake traveling here this Friday to take on Avon in the annual rivalry game I think we all look forward to each season. Avon coming in at 2-1 with only that tough loss to Medina. Avon Lake 3-0. A huge game, as always, highly anticipated. If you can't be here in person, of course, we expect pretty big crowds here at Avon this Friday. Make sure you turn into WEOL on AM 930, FM 100.3, and stream one on WEOL.com for all of your updates for Friday's game. Also on WEOL this week, you can catch Brookside traveling to Clearview. That will be on stream 2 on WEOL.com. Brookside coming off a loss to Chagrin Falls after winning in week 1 and then having their week 2 game canceled. Of course, Clearview, we talked about their game last week canceled. So it's going to be interesting to see how these teams respond in their first game of Lorraine County League play. So be sure to catch that on stream 2 on WEOL.com. And on stream 3, Columbia taking on Black River. Columbia 3-0. Heading into this game, outscoring opponents 100 and something to 16. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but trust me, this is a high-powered offense. You won't want to miss this one. If you're a high school football fan, a fan of these high-powered offenses, tune into Columbia taking on Black River. That will be on stream 3 for the Medina County matchup and another really highly anticipated Lorraine County League game. And I think we're going to see Columbia making some noise in the league this season. But until then, that will do it for us here at The Blitz. For my partner, Kristen Bauer, I am Marissa McNeese. Thanks again to First Federal Savings of Lorraine for sponsoring the show this season. In the meantime, go to chroniclet.com for all of your high school football coverage, content, previews. It's all there. Follow us on Twitter. Pick up your copy of The Blitz on Saturday mornings. And until then, we'll see you next week.